I'm assuming that's you, Nando. If not, I just made a random person a co-host. What's up, everybody? Dude, that was a nice play with DAL, by the way. Thank you. Normally by this time, I'm actually pretty bearish with airlines, and we're gonna get into that right now, but we'll see. We have three airlines reporting the rest of the week, but I think like each one has their own individual issues, which we'll discuss.
Yeah, totally. Just wanted to mention this is definitely not a random. You didn't give power to anybody that didn't need to. And how I did wanted to mention something about the Delta trade. When I first entered, I didn't realize the earning report happening for what's it,
Rare.
United
It,
Airlines.
yeah, it was United. So United
And
reported, and then DAL profited off of that.
yeah, and DAL actually reported the day before, which caused the
Yeah,
gap down
they
back
reported
into.
in on Friday, last Friday.
Oh yeah. And I didn't really understand the picture, but after it was very clear that somewhat of manipulation on that gap down, then pretty much paid attention to some smart money flow to pretty much get an entry there. But I appreciate you following me.
Yeah, man. I'm a big airline guy, and I think most of the people here know me for airlines. I didn't play them on the upside, but I've been waiting for downside play on them personally. I just like waiting after the ER just to confirm that my hunch is right. Um, right now, it seems to be affecting them is gas costs, and then with United and with Alaska, it's that whole Boeing situation. They have a bunch of planes grounded, so we're gonna get into that as well.
Perfect. I'm excited, man. Love these lectures.
I really I don't know, I think I'm the only one who does these. And I thoroughly enjoy them. We don't normally get like a huge turnout because I think it's not, again, I always talk about it's like not sexy to talk about earnings, or it's not sexy to talk about like fundamentals of companies. People just want to learn how to trade. And I'm like, especially with longer term trades or the way you trade, which is like more of a swing style, stuff like this is very valuable when you're looking at longer term pictures of the market as a whole.
Yeah, very different type of style that I have, and nowadays we have news catalysts every week whatsoever. So it's very hard to do the zero DTE, the weekly expirations. I'd rather not deal with too much stress, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. We'll get started in 1 minute. And I usually go through these pretty quickly just because, I mean, there's only, like I said, this week, there's not too many like big earnings. Obviously, we had Netflix today, we had United earlier today. Uh, but then obviously we have Tesla, which is probably what people care about. And then we have those big airlines and then Visa and American Express. That's all I really care about. There's not really anything else crazy. Next week should be more exciting. I think more bigger tech companies start reporting. Awesome, guys. Well, let's get started. Thank you guys for showing up. Like I said, I was just talking to Nando about this on Mario. So I am one of the support members here, one of the trade mods. And as I was briefly talking with Nando, I'm a big fan of airlines and long-term trades, but I also am a big fan of kind of just digging into fundamentals of companies and why they're doing what they're doing, right? It's more than just plain levels. And you can get really nitty-gritty into these, and we're not going to do that too much. We're going to get into a bigger picture of why certain companies are doing what they're doing at the moment. This isn't the biggest trading week when it comes to ERs. We did have a big one today, which is Netflix, and we'll recap that. We're going to dig a little bit into Tesla, which I know is what a lot of you guys are expecting. Then we'll get into some airlines and finally some financials to wrap us up, right? So in the beginning, that's kind of like what to see and a little bit of table of contents. So we have expected moves, how to look for IV. So there's actually ways to look for IV. I know a lot of times you guys are asking how do I know if there's too much IV? I know Flips talks about this all the time as well. He doesn't like buying calls when there's a lot of IV built up inside of it, right? IV crush, and then overall the outlook of the market. So for earnings this week, United already happened, which is a big one that we're going to recap as well. Netflix, Tesla, the airlines, and the financials as I spoke about. So expected moves. I think this is one that a lot of people actually have access to, but a lot of you guys don't know that this exists within the TOS system. So it's basically a calculated move based on option premiums. This is the expected market maker move. And you can literally see how many points up or down a stock is actually going to move. And I'll tell you guys how to find it. So if you guys actually go on Thinkorswim, and if you guys see this on the top right corner, you're going to see all of these market makers, right? So this gives you a plus or minus of 1.9. This is just an example that we're using Bank of America, right? But that's going to give you guys an idea, especially when you're buying like these really out of the money calls. I think it's going to happen tomorrow. A lot of people are going to try to swing Tesla calls. You guys could actually go in and see how much of an expected move there is for Tesla. And I'll probably bring it out tomorrow, just because I know a lot of people are going to get burned, right? So we have to understand with ERs like this, we have to be careful. We have to be careful with our money. Just because you're very, very certain that a stock is going to move a certain way, I promise you, there's so many things that can come into um, an earnings report that can affect it. And I'll talk about that today. Like I think United Airlines is a perfect example, something that actually beat earnings, but because of guidance, caused it to actually get pulled back completely, right? So pay attention for this. I think it's a great way to get ahead, especially if you're looking for an expected move. Now, scanning for IV. There's something called Market Chameleon. So if you guys can actually Google that, just Market Chameleon. It's a free website. And historically, and this is the probably my favorite part about it, historically, you can actually see the historic IV on the actual stock itself. And usually you'll see that increase in IV as we run into ERs, right? And this is what we call the ER run up. A lot of times you'll see Zabes play these. Nando's not sure if you're a fan of playing the ER run up. I know I liked doing it a lot with Arctic when him and I traded a lot together. But it's just a great way to get that little jump in your contracts just off of IV alone.
I definitely don't swing through the earning, but before the report or after is my favorite.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so check that out, guys. Market Chameleon. It's a free website that you guys are allowed to use. And then lastly, IV crush, right? And I think this is what's going to happen tomorrow when everyone who plays Tesla, just because the IV is just increasing, 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 increasing so much that when the report actually happens, if your contract does not move above the market maker's move or what their expectations, your calls are essentially going to be worthless unless you're buying time, unless you're buying shares. I promise you, you are going to lose money. So just please, please, please be careful when we're getting into these. Now, let's get into the earnings recap. Like I said, I actually like to speed through a lot of these things, just because it's I don't know, we can do a lot faster than spending an hour here. United Airlines, right? So if we actually break into United Airlines, the expectations for the revenue was 13.55 billion with an EPS of 1.70. They actually beat what the revenue expectations was, so they reported at 13.63. Now, this is actually what caused a lot of the airlines to pump, or just the travel sector as a whole, right? A lot of times you're going to hear what we call sympathy plays. So let's say if a particular stock, in this case United, is gonna have its earnings, you don't necessarily have to play United. You can play Delta. I think Nando did a fantastic job with that. He just said that he didn't know that United was reporting. Delta had their earnings previously last week, but you can see how these correlate with each other, right? So just because United did bad in a certain occasion. They actually did really well with their actual revenue. Same thing with EPS. And we'll break into why. So if we actually look, right, if we look at United Airlines, which is, where are you? UEL. So they had a fantastic earnings report, but, and we're going to get into it. So this is what they said, and this is what killed them, right? They had a fantastic earnings report. They beat revenue expectations. They beat EPS. but they said themselves they expect a quarterly loss of 35 cents a share due to the grounding of the airplanes, right? So they actually purchased the Boeing that got with the loose bolts that got the door uh pushed out of it in Alaska. Same thing happened with United. They found so they have 79 of these aircrafts, more than any other carrier out there. And this is what caused United to fall back down and get pulled back down, even though they had a fantastic quarter, right? So pay attention to these little things because, as you said, as the report's coming out, anything can happen, right? Tomorrow, I have a feeling Elon's going to say some stupid shit that's going to cause Tesla to come back down. So, unless he's really, really bullish and unless they actually beat numbers, stuff like this can make them go down, right? And this is coming straight from the CEO. So, despite unpredictable headwinds, we delivered our ambitious EPS target that few thought possible. Now the new operational records for customers, said United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby, right? So they beat what everyone else thought, and that's what's usually happened throughout these December holidays or just through the holidays in general. Most airlines will beat, but they will have all those sandbag expectations for the next quarters, and that's when I usually start playing puts for them. It's just a cyclical stock. Now we'll get into Netflix. Netflix literally just reported, and I was actually pretty bullish on Netflix, but when you actually start breaking into the numbers, this is where it gets pretty exciting. EPS expected 2.23, but they reported a 2.11. And then revenue, oh, I probably messed this one up. Sorry. 87.71 billion with the beat 87.8. You're saying, hey, EPS didn't really beat, revenue didn't really beat. But what people care about when it comes to Netflix at the end of the day is subscribe numbers, right? How many subscriptions are they maintaining? And then how many subscriptions are they actually adding? And in this case, Netflix added 13.1 million subscribers during their fourth quarter. This has been a huge increase, not only for them, but what previously people thought that they were going to be able to accumulate. The company now has 260.8 million paid subscribers. That's a huge amount of subscribers, right? Now, this is where I was saying the subscriber growth easily tops the 8.7 million paid memberships that Netflix reported in the third quarter, right? So they're continuously increasing. This is showing positive guidance. Superior tech. Now it's because the Avatar trailer dropped. We're going to get into that. Thank you for bringing this up. Now, where is again where it always comes down to guidance personally as much as the company's providing great numbers. It's funny, right? You're talking about the Avatar trailer. I'm actually really excited. I'm a big fan of it. What is the company doing to move forward? Well, in this case, Netflix strictly said they're not interested in acquiring linear assets. They don't want to do any M&As. They don't want to buy out other previous companies. What they really want to do is double down on their own creative assets and create more Netflix original series, in this case, the Avatar trailer. So you're not far off from that, right? They're doubling down on creating these things. That way they don't have to rely on other titles. Right now, a lot of people are reducing their spend. Netflix is like, nope, we're going to do completely different. We're going to actually spend more money on creating new content for Netflix. So I'm pretty excited to see what else they bring out in these next couple of months and years. But it seems like Netflix is leaning bullish, and that gets directly affected if you look at their stock. They had a great push as well. So yeah, any questions on United or Netflix? Those two quick recaps. I know like I said, we're going through these pretty quickly. If not, we'll keep on going for what's to come. Awesome. Let's keep going. Tesla. I know that's why a lot of you guys are here. Wednesday after hours is when they're reporting. Tesla's currently trading at 209.14. Now, realistically, Tesla has just been getting beaten down every single day for the past, let's see, since the 28th of December, it has been in a constant decrease, literally almost a month straight in a bear. We're just going continuously down. A lot of this has been news. A lot of this has been the numbers that they're producing. A lot of it has been Elon. There has been a lot of speculation as a whole in the EV market as well, right? So we can't just look at Tesla. While Tesla, to me, in my opinion, is the leader in the EV market at the moment, you're seeing people like Ford who decided to cut back on their production of the EV of the F-150, the electric one. Companies as a whole are reducing their productions with EVs. People are worried with the current cold climate that that whole fiasco that's been happening with Tesla's not being able to start during the cold. Are they going to be able to surpass this? A lot of people have been recently also upset with the false advertisements of how much mileage EVs are actually getting, right? So it's just been a lot of negative news that's been piling on to Tesla. Um, Price cuts, those are usually the biggest one. And then people are, and just not just people, investors are starting to doubt in the company as a whole, right? And let's dig into that. Now, expected they're an EPS of 0.74 with a revenue of 25.76. Now, last quarter, they did put a 0.66 EPS with a revenue of 23.35 billion. So we are expecting an increase. But the issue is if they're slashing prices, are they going to be able to achieve that EPS and revenue, right? That is the big question. Ultimately, Tesla, it's a numbers game. How many vehicles are they producing? How many vehicles have they sold? And how many of those have they actually delivered? Why does it matter if they're delivered? A lot of people did pre-buys for the Cybertruck. A lot of people do pre-buys for certain vehicles, but don't actually get them delivered. They're just sitting there, right? So they're sitting on lots and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many they produce if none of those are sold. Price cuts versus profitability, decline EVs across the sector. And then the big one was the price cuts in China, right? So that was what really upset the market as a whole. But ultimately, none of that's going to matter if Elon comes around and says some stupid shit, right? So when he tweeted out, I have less than 25% ownership of Tesla, I can't do anything, or I don't want to pursue doing things in Tesla. Investors don't like that because personally, it's something I believe, something I've discussed with Telio deeply as well. A lot of the times, we're not betting on the horse, we're betting on the jockey. And in this case, well, people hate him. I personally, sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of what he says. This dude's smart, the dude knows what he's doing, and he made Tesla what it is. But I actually posted this in Trade Floor, I think a while back. I think Elon will eventually get booted out of Tesla. And I don't know how the market is going to react to that, right? And it could be, and this might just be a prediction, and I'd love your perspective on this. I think Tesla will get eventually bought out by a bigger company. I just haven't decided on who. I think they're just, I don't know.
Apple.
I know you mentioned Apple, and we were having this discussion, but I don't know if Apple wants to get into that space yet. I actually see them going more into the cloud space. Although they're doing fantastic stuff with their AR systems, so it would make sense, right? They're getting deeper into the AIs. But yeah, I could see a company acquiring Tesla in the next couple of years personally. But we're gonna have to pay attention to all of these things, guys. This is what's gonna be really important for Tesla overall. And just wait to see what Elon says and what numbers come out.
Yeah, I definitely I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I'm not sure if we all know, but when Elon Musk first started with his like he was like, involved with like PayPal and stuff,
Yeah.
he needed a huge loan and he did get it from, I believe it was Barack Obama.
Yep. If it wasn't for the Democrats, Tesla would be bankrupt.
Yeah, so if to put it in simple words, Elon Musk is kind of like a slave to someone else. He's not really up there because of I mean I'm sure his family had a lot of money. I'm sure they did. It's on paper, but the loan from the government that he got, it's really what put him up there. And just as quick as he was, able to climb to the highs, he'll easily be able to fall himself. But in terms of the stock, I'm sure they'll be able to, like you said, some other company acquire this, and we
Yep.
will wake up tomorrow like nothing happened.
Exactly. Like the car's great. I think they do fantastic jobs. I just think again the jockey is just not the right person to take Tesla where it needs to go. So, and he also, I believe, he used a lot of his Tesla shares to fund his acquisition for Twitter. I'm gonna have to go double check myself on that one, but I'm like pretty accurate. He used a lot of that as like I don't know if it was for a loan or he literally just cashed out and used that money to help his acquisition of Twitter. He sold, right? Okay, J-Dub, thank you. Yeah. I was reading somewhere there, right? And I remember when that happened, Tesla dropped as well because people thought he was very stupid for taking over Twitter. And I think we're all seeing that be a failure as well. Ultimately, when I did post in Trade Floor, I said Elon has been spreading himself too thin. While he was able to manage SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City, I think all of those
Right.
kind of did have some type of similarities with each other. But now getting into Twitter, it's too much. He has too much on his plate, and I don't think he knows how to manage his time, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah, definitely a lot of mistakes from him. Even that the he lowered the prices for like I believe the best vehicle, the best selling vehicle that he has, and that pretty much just messed up, or
Hmm.
in other words, fucked majority of the investors. And that itself kind of messed up the whole market for that Model 3, used cars and stuff. And that's definitely not going to help him out either. And it's clearly reflecting on the stock.
Exactly, man. So let's see what happens tomorrow. I might play this tomorrow, get some scalps. It's one of those things, it's gonna be so volatile. I just be careful with levels. And I would do quick plays on this. I wouldn't mess around with swinging it through unless maybe you have enough profits to just mess around and like you don't care if you lose how much. But again, it's gonna have to be a ridiculous move in order to be positive on this trade. American Airlines, probably the worst fucking airlines that we have. Actually, maybe Save might be the worst, but I still think they're doing a little bit better than American Airlines, right? So American Airlines is currently trading at $14 with an expectations of $13.05 billion for revenue with the EPS of 0.08. Last quarter, they actually posted 13.48 billion with 0.38 EPS. Again, you're going to see this decrease across the board when it comes to airlines. The weird thing is domestic travel increased overall, right? So you're going to have a boost in American Airlines top line performance. December 23 improved 79% compared to 77% December of 2022 in passenger growth. But the big one, and this is something that Tilio and I have been kind of going back and forth on, is the war in Israel or the conflict in Israel is causing a fluctuation in oil prices. And I think, funny enough, Nando, you're an XCOM uh, trade today, right? You're in calls.
I'm
Uh,
back in. Yeah, back in. Back in.
yeah. Um, oil prices are going to continue to go up personally. This conflict is causing a lot of rough in that Middle East, which is going to cause again a higher demand for oil overall, right? So that's you're going to see this across the board for airlines that if oil prices are up, it's going to hurt their bottom line of how much money they're actually making. So again, personally, American Airlines isn't an airline I actively play. I stay away from it myself. But it's something that I did want to speak about. JW posted something. Elon Musk sold 3.9 billion worth of Tesla stock since completing the purchase of Twitter for last month. Elon Musk sold 19.5 million shares. Yeah, so this is what pisses me off about him, where he's complaining he doesn't have enough or like enough ownership, but he went and sold a fuck ton of shares to purchase a stupid thing, right? At a stupid price. But anyways, we'll leave that in the past. Southwest,
Airlines.
go ahead.
Yeah, airlines. Definitely a terrible stock, except for 2020, the year I got in
Yes.
as an investor. Caught a very good buy, I believe, around 10, maybe $9, and that thing went up to like 20 bucks. But besides that, I never touched it again.
Yeah, I don't touch American Airlines. Tilly and I hate American Airlines. I don't think I've ever flown American Airlines. I don't think I ever plan to fly American Airlines. Southwest, on the other hand, I think is not a bad airline. And personally, there is a big boom right now in, I don't want to call it a cheap, I think affordable airlines are the next big boom. Not only are we seeing this in the US, but there's actually a lot of people in Europe or a lot of companies in Europe that are seeing a lot of success with these affordable airlines, and you're going to see this across the market, right? And this, I don't know if that's correct. I need to double check. I think I might have gotten that a little off. Actually, yeah, it is. It's Thursday pre-market. Okay, so we're good. EPS with expected 0.13 with a revenue of 6.7 billion. Last quarter they the EPS of 0.38 with revenue of 6.52. Right. So you're seeing this huge fluctuation in EPS, but in revenue is kind of maintaining. One thing you're going to see across the board, and this actually happened with United, and we're also going to be seeing this with the Southwest Airlines, is that they're increasing the pay of pilots. Obviously, a lot of people do not want to see this. It's almost like a catch-22, right? Because with COVID happening, a lot of pilots did not want to return back with the low wages that were occurring. So they were leaving to the big four, the big three, which you have Delta, United, and I don't know who the other one would be, but probably Alaska. So Southwest Airline decided they will do a 50% pay raise over a 5-year period. I believe United did one as well, but that's going to be over a 3 to 4 year period. So that's going to hurt profits. But overall, it's going to help maintain pilots, which means more flights, which means more revenue. So it almost balances each other out. Again, you're going to see this again. The high fuel cost is going to affect profits. But overall, they witnessed solid leisure demands with record revenues during the Thanksgiving break, which is what we were discussing. And Southwest Airlines now expects fourth quarter unit revenues to improve to the better end of previous guidance. So previously, they were not expecting. I don't know if you guys remember when Southwest had that whole fiasco when their whole system fell apart. Their last quarter was terrible because of that. But I believe now they are improving on those systems, and it's causing a increase in revenue, right? So I'm excited to see what Southwest does personally. I'm a big fan of trading them. It's one of those cheapy ones, but it's been very consistent. So keep an eye out for that one. I promise, the last airlines, guys. Alaska Airlines, another one that I personally like to enjoy trading. Expect this 2.55 billion, 0.17 EPS. Last quarter was 2.48 billion, EPS of 1.83. You're going to say, why is their EPS so low? Why is revenue going decrease? Obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, you guys all saw that happen, that the Alaska door literally fell off mid-flight. Luckily, no one was hurt. And if you've heard of the burnt toast theory, luckily the people who were sitting in those aisle seats or who were sitting in those window seats were not there. No one was injured. But it caused this huge pushback on Boeing, and a lot of their planes had to be grounded, right? So not only did they find, did this incident happen, the Alaska Airlines CEO actually said they found loose bolts on many of their Boeing Max 9s, right? So this is happening across their fleet. Flights being canceled, grounded planes. I almost want to play puts on this just because it's almost, but then that's one of the things, right? It's almost expected to do bad. So if you do play puts on it, it might not go the way you wanted because that expectation was already played in. But this might be something that we can maybe do a run up into. Again, high fuel costs are going to be affecting Alaska's bottom line overall. But that's going to be it for airlines, guys. Now we're going to go into River's favorite stock. And I actually reached out to River and asked him if he can give me a quote on T because I know a lot of you guys actually like playing this with him. This is also Wednesday pre-market. I asked him, he originally said best stock ever, but in his humble opinion, it's going to be going down to subscribers and revenue debt. Them being subscribers, of course, will trick it into revenue, but debt, he said, has been the biggest focus that AT&T has been trying to cut their debt overall. So as long as debt has been going down, we should see a positive increase in AT&T. Right now with the EPS of 0.56, last quarter they had 0.64, but they do have an increase of revenue. And this is what I was telling River that maybe he wasn't pointing to. I actually spend a lot of time in Latin America, specifically Mexico City. And the Latin America segment is increasing. So AT&T is finally in Mexico. they've been doing this huge expansion down there, and you're actually seeing stores like a normal cell phone, right? So their plans are actually different. Again, we're very spoiled in the United States. We have these unlimited plans. Those don't actually exist in Mexico City or just in Mexico in general. So LATAM as a whole, in my opinion, I'm very bullish in LATAM. I think this is going to be something that AT&T is going to benefit from, especially if they continue to invest down in the LATAM world, not just inside of Mexico, but outside into other countries as well. Research and development and continuing with their 5G network, subscriber count, and overall guidance. Those are the things that personally I'm going to be keeping an eye out for and what I recommend you guys look into. Now we're going to get into Visa. So Visa being one of the financials that we have for this week with expectations of 8.55 billion and EPS of 2.34. Last quarter they were at 8.61 billion and EPS of 2.33. The crazy thing with Visa, a lot of people don't know this, is that they have been very consistent over these past year, this past quarters. They have beaten every single quarter earnings. And it's been kind of crazy to see Visa's steady growth. And a lot of this has to do with the increase in travel and entertainment segments, not only within the US, but on a global scale. Visa is one of the most accepted credit cards around the world.
Exposure, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, as someone who's big in the credit card game, and I'm probably doing another one of those lectures one of these days to teach you guys a little bit more about that. I carry both American Express and Visa. And one of the biggest issues, again, if you start going globally, you'll realize that American Express, even though it's known for this being this travel credit card, is not accepted in a lot of places. And why? Because American Express has a very high fee that it charges the consumer, not the consumer, the business, right? So you'll see those little signs where like you need to spend X amount of dollars for you to use American Express, and it doesn't even benefit the business. When I spend time in Mexico, there's a lot of places that does not accept American Express, and I have to use my Visa, right? So those little things affect it, especially on a global scale, because Visa is a global company, right? But at the same time, Visa and American Express have been kind of fighting over this marketing thing that's been going around. So there's a lot of expensive with client incentives. Visa, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the Chase Sapphire just opened up these brand new, beautiful lounges. I can't wait to go to them. There's one in LaGuardia, and they're going to open one up in JFK. I believe they also opened one up in I don't know if it was Denver or Houston, and there's just these beautiful lounges that are going to be competing with the Centurion lounges of American Express. So those are going to be great. I think those are going to be great incentives for people to start grabbing these more expensive Visa cards as well. And
Yeah, I'm
overall,
excited for that as well.
yeah, dude, they look beautiful.
I
Like,
was trading American Express back in it was 2020 going into 2021 around 90 $100, and you could
yeah,
definitely see the price reflect now. These guys are making hella money off them fees. And I was
yep,
just at the mechanic not so long ago, and the guy actually told me, hey, look, I'm gonna charge you a little bit extra just because I'm getting eaten up on the fees. And I was just like, hey, look, I'll just use another card, my bad. But yeah,
yeah.
these guys make money.
Not only that, I think credit card interest rates are the highest that they've ever been. And I think people are going to start defaulting on their credit card payments soon if inflation keeps up the way it is. And the way inflation affects directly with Visa, the company draws revenues at a set percentage of the total transaction value. If there's less people shopping, less money for Visa, right? So that's been like the catch 22 for both of these credit card companies that they need less inflation so people can go spend more. But at the same time, they make money on fees, so they like it, right? So it's this balance game that you're going to see between Visa and American Express, which is what we have next. So Friday pre-market EPS 2.65, revenue 15.95 billion. That's the crazy thing, right? Very similar market, very similar companies, but look at the difference in revenue and look at the difference in EPS. That's just insane to me how they almost double the amount of revenue that Visa is making, and it goes back to those fees. So things to watch out for. Again, the consensus mark for average fee per card. There's a 15% year over year growth in the fourth quarter for these fees. Guys, I think I believe it's over 5% that the company that American Express is charging companies. I don't know if that's changed since the last time I've actually seen the fees, but they're very, very expensive. Um, and that's how American Express is able to make money. Then the second part is Amex's interest income. The second largest revenue contributor has grown. Obviously, interest is growing, so that's going to be a lot more money for them. Almost look at it like a bank, right? Increase in expenses and card member revenues, marketing overall. I think American Express, like I said, is competing with Visa for market share, and that's going to affect profit margins overall, including inflation. So American Express is another one to keep out for. Someone just said, "Hi, I've just joined. I am new member today, my first day. I'm interested in Netflix earning discussion. Could I think I missed it? I have five CCS on Netflix and it shot up after earning. Can someone please help me get some guidance?" You CCS? You bought five calls or you hold up or Rodrigo? Cover, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You bought five covered calls on the Netflix earning. I have 535 covered calls. Holy fuck, you have over 100 shares of Netflix.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Bro, you have like oh, it's a call credit spread. Um, I mean, we have to see where that opens tomorrow. Uh, do you know where it's at right now? Because
It's right in between 530, 535.
then he might get lucky and you might be able to break out, you get out and profit. You're just gonna have to pay attention to what happens tomorrow. If market rips, you're fucked.
Wait, Mario, I wanted to ask you, how do you think these credit card debt being at an all-time high whatsoever, or at a record high, how do you think that ends up playing out for all these companies?
They don't care. They're gonna get paid regardless. That's like what they don't care about. They make money on fees, so the more people can get indebted to them, the better they are. Personally, I'm not a fan of credit card companies. I think they're disgusting. There's just no reason to be charging. Um, I think like on my American Express, it's like fucking 28% interest fees. Late fees on my Amex or even on my Chase, they're like in the 30s or almost 40s now. That's how these people are making money. So to them, they're happy. They're gonna keep making money. They want people in debt at the end of the day.
Yeah, accepting all the applications, no worries.
Is it bad to get a new credit card every 2 to 3 years for bonus rewards? Rodrigo, I'll probably do a whole separate video. I was literally looking at my old lecture on credit cards, and I think it's time to do a new one and explain to you guys how that works. So, I wouldn't say it's bad. I think where it gets bad is as we're talking about credit card interests and what people have to pay, is people can easily get indulged in credit cards and they don't know how to manage their money and you can get into debt very, very fast. And credit cards can be dangerous, right? If you don't know how to manage it, if you're comfortable managing, yes, I'm okay with you getting one for bonus rewards. I do it all the time, but I also believe that it's for people who actually travel enough. Like if you're not traveling consistently, then I don't think they're worth it sometimes. Uh, Joined kind of late. Jig, go over XCOM or XOM. I wanted to see what Nanda thought about it. I was gonna get in, by the way. Nanda, I was gonna get in. I was stuck in meetings all day at work, so I couldn't get in. Um, but I when it was like I think it was like 97.50, and it was pulling back down. That's when I really wanted it. Honestly, to be honest, I wish it came down here again. This is just a perfect consolidation. And I'll let you know what this will be interesting. Let me read this, and then I would love to hear your perspective on it after. But you just see this beautiful consolidation across here, and it's just kind of been holding. we'll see is there previous support down here? I'm really curious. Yeah, so the support became resistance here. You guys noticed that? So support, there's resistance broke down, and then it broke one more time, touched, retest, and kept going. That's exactly what happened here. Touched, broke, retested, and I think this might break out. But, and then I'm sure you've already thought of this, there is a downtrend right here. So I think once we break out of that, it's money. But that's just my quick, what, 2 minute breakdown of it. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so with Exxon, I'm sure some of you guys have, this is one that I trade very often. I'm very patient with it though. It's not something that you'll see me put out every day. So I was shorting this at 118. Unfortunately, it ripped almost past a little past 120, so I had to stop out there. But I was way too early on that downside
Yeah.
anticipation, and now here I think we're way too extended on this downside. If you guys
Yeah, the
did,
200's all the way up here.
yeah, if last week I was in puts, I had a calculated move down into just under 96, 95.76 was the exact zero point 0.5 target that I had. I took the profit there on those puts. I'm never greedy whatsoever, and we did open up to a nice gap down. So now I'm finally seeing, the lower highs being invalidated, at least on my time frame, which is the 1 hour, which I'm currently seeing. You have the breakup structure at 97.75, 98, and that level comes from December 12th.
Hmm.
And I'm sure bulls can kind of, start holding above that, maybe see a flag. Uh, Range above that 97 level overall, and then get a potential push up to 100.
What I do love
Um,
about this, it's such a clean when do we cut? And it's like on a break level of this consolidation. It's just so obvious, right? If you close below it, get out. It's such a simple,
yes,
easy trade.
yeah. So when I exited those puts, I'm not exiting them and automatically getting into the calls. I expected this. Well, I did expect this, but I would like to see this move, which we got today. The gap up, a flag start to show there, and then we can look for an entry. Besides that, you can see somewhat of a cup and handle, inverse head and shoulder potentially forming, might be valid already. And in terms of targets, we have a gap to fill that was created at the start of this month.
Right
It
here.
was Friday, January 5. Fibonacci wise, golden, retracement wise, golden zone wise, if you just grab the swing high of
Yeah.
the start of the week, which was around 104 to the low of last week around 95, 96, you can easily get a move up to 100, which is the test that I'm waiting for. And this is one that we haven't taken a loss since the start that I've joined here. I'm actually like 15 for 15 since I think like August. So it's not something that I trade very day in, day out, but every week I'm patiently waiting for a setup to show here. I usually wait for a pattern to show, that break of structure,
Yeah.
usually a gap up, gap down, and
Are
then
you
you
using
should
100 as a psychological, or is there like,
yeah, that too. It's a lot of factors. That would probably be my area to take some,
yeah, you can see
profit
it
just
right here. Look at that. Look at that. Like, this is why I love support and resistance, right? People like just look at that. It's just obvious.
and from there it could possibly even go crazier. Then at 102 I'll probably answer once again. 104, 105,
Yep.
another few triggers I have, and I'm ready to trade this reversal back to 120 to new
Yeah,
highs.
yeah. Depending on how we open tomorrow, I might grab those with you. I know I'm
Uh,
getting it a
one,
little late, but
yeah, one last thing that I want to mention about Exxon though, this name has taught me a lot of patience. Sometimes initially in the beginning when I first started trading this, where when I would rush my entries and try to trade this every day, those are the days where those are the times where you will see those losses gradually, add up and stuff. So you definitely have to be very patient with this one. And at the end of the day, it's good for you. It's what's
And
gonna help you.
you have time on your contracts. So that's good. I believe you
Yeah, these are February 16, and flow is another thing that I pay attention to. It's a factor of a lot of things. It's not just, hey, look, we have a double bottom. Let's buy some calls. It's a bunch of
yeah,
uh
you add every factor you
consequences.
can to get in.
Yeah, maybe like over five at least. I need to see over five areas of confluence to really
Yeah,
get me in.
Shark trades like that. Shark is very adamant. He's like, find 5 reasons why the trade will work. He's like, but also find 5 reasons why it won't work, right? So that was one thing I always
Yeah,
took off.
you could like tally up like the amount of signs you're seeing, the amount of bullish signs you're seeing, bearish signs, and
Yeah,
whichever side has more, you can go with that side. It's not how I normally do things, or how I would advise to do things, but you'll start to realize which trades to take and which to stay away from. You're
yep,
not jumping into everything. So trade
yep,
oil, and it'll teach you a bit of patience, especially swinging in this market, right?
100%. Arkash, are we allowed to ask questions in live or just in chat? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind unmuting you, but like it's kind of like an earnings lecture. There's not really like a lot of Q&A really involved. In fact, we're pretty much done. Again, lighter week on the earnings overall, but um, I think next week is going to be more exciting. You're going to start seeing like a lot more tech companies. This is just how we get started. It's little by little. You're always going to see travel and banks report first, and then once that's done, you're going to start trickling in these bigger companies, right? So, um, yeah, I think that's it for me, guys. Like I said, we're gonna end it a little early, and I really appreciate it. Thoughts on MUR? I don't know that stock. I'll do that one and we'll call it a day. Murphy Oil Company. I don't know them, but look, it's doing the same thing. And this is the beauty of trading within sectors or trading within yeah, sectors. I think is the right word. Is you're gonna see consolidations and you're going to see similarities within the charts. If we were just talking about airlines, right? If you one airline, something happens with one, it usually affects the rest of them. So sometimes you can have where in this case, Exxon is a little bit more, maybe it's out of your budget, but you have maybe Murphy Oil, right? Where it's following damn near the same thing, but they do have earnings the 25th of January. Does Exxon have, when are their earnings? Oh, they don't have it. See, so like this will be very interesting, right? So when Murphy actually shows their earnings, if it's profitable, this can pop or vice versa, right? So
Yeah, we could play that earning run up. So it's something I already pay notice. So we'll definitely have an opportunity end of the month, by end of the
yeah,
month, or
and we'll talk about it.
you know,
Can you show the
most of the
airline?
money is made while you're doing your homework, right? Not during the market hours. Now that those are the hours where you just have to execute. But right now I'm definitely listening to the lecture, ready to do some charting right after and pretty much get these charts out the way for the rest of the week.
Yeah, I used to do them Sunday. I used to get a really good habit of doing them Sundays. I'll be honest, I got lazy and work and shit like that. That's not Toasty called me out the other day. I was actually supposed to meet him up today. I'm gonna text him right now if him and I can still get together. Um,
Yeah,
but
Sundays are actually my favorite. I go
yeah,
all in. I probably put like 20, 30 out. The weekdays I half-ass it. I maybe do like 5, 10, but it's for the members, right?
yep. Alrighty, guys, brother, I really appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. And we should be doing more across the week. Like I said, guys, earnings is coming along. This is what I love to do. I really like to break down these companies and give you guys an idea of how the company works on a financial level. And I'll see you guys in trade floor tomorrow. I do have a flight to catch and going to LA. But I'll still be in there.
Have a safe one, brother. Thanks for listening to
Oh,
everyone
thank
in here.
you.
You
Thank
guys
you.
tomorrow.
All
And
right,
you
see
too.
everybody.
See you.